There is this complaint that we don't have enough time to do something and there's always a lack of time, despite the fact that there are so many apps and technology and productivity tools to help us achieve more and become more productive. And I used to believe that the more that I do, the more I achieve, the happier, the more fulfilled I would be. And I was proven wrong by a panic attack that I had lately after work. I couldn't breathe, my vision was blurred, and my head just felt like it was hit by a large hammer. Luckily, lately I came across this amazing book called 4,000 Weeks Time Management for Mortals, and it was written by Oliver Burkeman. And this book is a life changer because it really made me realize that the way most people approach time management and productivity is kind of unproductive and also a little bit unhealthy. So let's get into this book. First of all, I want to start with this idea called the paradox of productivity. So the idea is that the more productive you are, the more free time that you have. And the more free time that you have, the more you kind of expect yourself to accomplish. But the problem is, people are people and we tend to underestimate the amount of time and energy we need to achieve something. And because we only have a limited amount of time, we can't actually do everything. And when you can't do everything, most people will kind of beat themselves up, and this is where most people get tripped. So for example, imagine that at your job, you are expected to reply 100 emails in the span of 8 hours. At first, you probably need that amount of time to finish the work. But as you become more productive, the time that you need to spend on that task will reduce. So you will probably spend less and less hours on replying to that 100 emails. But instead of taking your time to do your work and taking things slowly, what will usually happen is you will have developed a reputation for being super fast and super efficient. Your boss probably will notice that and they might ask you to do more work. So the result of being more productive and efficient is that you actually take on more work, which might be things that you aren't even paid to do or even have the interest to. And that is why we have this 996 culture in China, which is you go to work at 9 a.m., you leave work at 9 p.m., and you do this for 6 days in a week. Because people generally believe that the more productive you are, the more you should take on. And there is this American anthropologist called Edward T. Hall, and he once pointed out that, I'm just going to give you the quote, "Time feels like an unstoppable conveyor belt and bring us more tasks as fast as we can to dispatch new ones. And becoming more productive just seems to cause the belt to speed up." So the problem is not that we've become more productive, but that the time that is saved from this hyper productivity has made us less intentional about the things we spend our time on. And which lands onto the second theme of this book, and that is humans are actually not adept at embracing and facing our limits. So I want to start a quote that really resonated with me. Rather than face our limitations, we engage in avoidance strategies in an effort to carry on feeling limitless. We push ourselves harder, chasing fantasies of the perfect work-life balance. So we implement time management system that promise to make time for everything so that tough choices won't be required. And I think the reason why people want to put more on their plate and try to be more productive is because it can be just really uncomfortable to admit to ourselves that we actually don't have full control over the amount of time that we get. It can be really defeating to say that the potential that you have can be limited because the energy and the time and the attention that you have is limited. But also, Burkeman says, a really positive thing about missing out is that it actually makes our life more meaningful, because when you choose to do something over another, you are making a positive affirmation on the things that actually matters to you. You are making a stance on what's more important, and you are deciding on the kind of life experience you want to have. So the fact that I am making these YouTube videos instead of lying in my bed and watching TV is me making a positive affirmation that sharing knowledge is more important. And the fact that you have committed to this one person instead of hooking up with 30 more people is you making a positive affirmation that having a deep connection is far more important than having loads of sexual escapades. So how do you embrace your limit and accept your finity? And Bergman suggests the way we do it is to basically treat our time exactly as ourselves, which is totally finite and has an endpoint. Time is more of a kind of intangible concept that we use to measure the span of our life. So in reality, time is really the things we pay attention to and the things we choose to do. And the more time you spend on the things that matter to you, that you regard as important, the more meaningful your life would feel. The more time you spend on things that don't matter or on people that you basically don't connect with, the emptier it would feel. And there is a really beautiful quote that captured this idea, and it says, "Once you no longer have to convince yourself that you will do everything that needs doing, you are free to focus on doing a few things that count." And from this book, there are also a few questions that can help you re-examine your life and your priorities from this point of view. So the first question is, are you holding yourself to or judging yourself by standards of productivity or performance that is impossible to meet? And this question is good because it reminds you that you are a finite human being, and despite that you have many dreams to achieve, sometimes it is important to let yourself loose and not base your self-worth entirely on your accomplishments. And the second question is, in what ways are you yet to accept the fact that you are who you are, not the person you think you ought to be? And this question is also useful because it continues to remind us that life is finite, and when you are choosing something that is less important, you are also giving up something that is more important. And there is this book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying, and the book says that the biggest regrets people have before they die is to not live a life that is true to themselves, but instead a life that is expected from other people. And finally, which is more of an advice, saying no to what we want to do is far more important than saying no to things we don't want to do, which really circles back to the discussion we had earlier. Good time management is more about choosing the things that are more important, instead of trying to do more and cramming more things to our schedule. So to sum up, the book is really about challenging the way we think about time management and productivity. It is unlikely that we will achieve everything we want to do, and so it is more important to choose the things that actually matter to us. And there is so much more to this book. It touches upon the history of time management and productivity. It talks about the problems of having too much technology and convenience in our life. And there's also a fair amount of discussion on the whole human psychology and how we relate to the concept of success and productivity. And it is so fascinating to read. I highly recommend it. Alright, I hope you have learned something from this video, and if you have made it so far, I really appreciate you and thank you so much for spending the time with me. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video. Bye bye!